Welcome to the Institute of Jewish Knowledge and Learning. We are live with
Thank
Rabbi
you so much.
Akiva Mann from Yerushalayim. The topic is Sufism with a little bit through the lens of Jewish mysticism. Take it away, Rebbe.
Okay, thanks, Kim, and hello, everyone, and welcome. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of a lens today from the lens of Jewish mysticism. Okay, so friends, last week I just want Kim. I'm going to ask you to put up the graph.
Give me a second to get there. Oh, I have it. I love when I can find things. Ta-da!
Okay, so friends, if you look at this graph, it says it all. It says it all. This is the entire map of not only the spiritual self, but the entire self. Our entire beings are really symbolically represented here in this graph. And last week we were analyzing and taking apart our entire selves that are segmented here. And last week we ended off that the false self, the things that we have constructed for ourselves, that means things that we have constructed that are not necessarily our total reality, but we have constructed certain things in our minds that might or might not be true, and that the false self, it's a relative term, so it's like a very strong term. It's a very strong term. Just take it in a relative sense. It is the parts of ourselves that are very fearful of life out there. And it has to do with behavior that we have accumulated over our lifetimes, that are influenced by memories and by experiences, and that build up and build up and build up a certain type of film, a crust that constricts our freedom of movement, our freedom of mind, and we become very encrusted. We become very narrow and constricted, and that false self requires an opening into the essential self. And into the essential self, the gateways into the essential self is going to be really, ultimately, we spoke about this last week, is going to be contingent on the health of the conscious mind and the health of the subconscious mind. and all of the list that they entail, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And depending on the nutrition and the guidance, and we introduce that word, the work, that we do within our conscious mind and within our subconscious mind, to that extent is the essential self going to be revealed to us and within us. And within us. We slowly but surely start enlarging our perspective and our awareness. So the false self is mamish due to a lack of perception and a lack of seeing. And then depending on how we are able to guide our conscious minds and our subconscious minds, the end result is going to be an opening and an expansion. And I'm going to use the word revelation, a revelation of our own essential self that has always been present. It's just been encrusted. What a sense of freedom. What a sense of aha that is embedded in the essential self. So in Sufi terminology, the work, in Jewish terminology, the avoda, our avodat. We call it in Hebrew avodat Hashem, or just simply avoda. It is the work that serves as the vehicle through which, friends, we transport ourselves. We move ourselves from false self to essential self. Or to spirit. Essential self and spirit are going to be synonymous. So, in essence, we are all reflectors of the essential self or spirit. Essential self is we can call neshama. We can call the purity and the neshama in our souls in all her glorious radiance, when our neshamas are shining. That is the essential self. And our neshamas are reflectors of then what Sufism is calling divinity, of the Great Spirit. Neshama is a reflector of the Great Spirit, of divinity. And in the essential self, and in this expanded area that starts getting larger and larger and more expanded in the graph, in that linear graph, all intelligence that is contained within the soul and within the spirit, all intelligence and all beauty and all strength and all compassion and all love and all patience and all trust and all compassion, they are all attributes. They are all contained in the essential self. So, as the awareness of our connection with essential self grows, these attributes that are contained within essential self are reflected back more perfectly through us. Okay? And we start living in this expanded area of essential self, and that very narrow place of false self is literally not any longer part of our consciousness. It's not any more part of our lives. We have, so to speak, escaped from that narrow place. And this is how the Sufis, how Sufism puts it, and I love this because we're going to find out how it mirrors Jewish mysticism. They say that to the extent that we polish the mirror of our heart, we become reflective and brighter. In other words, when we enter into the work of, I like the word polishing, of polishing our conscious minds, our egos, our intellect, our personality, all require polishing. Our subconscious minds, our hearts, our emotion, our subtle perceptions, they all require polishing. Maybe first a cleaning, maybe first a scrubbing, depending on who we are and what our needs and how much we have neglected certain things. But the more we polish our conscious minds and our subconscious minds through the work, the more we, so to speak, sanitize ourselves, the more we clean ourselves, our mirrors up, the brighter we will be able to become reflectors in our ordinary lives of our essential selves. And within Sufi tradition, what is one of the main essential works, the avoda, that can help us make this journey? And the answer is their spiritual theology maintains that it is going to be through meditation and contemplation and time alone with yourself that is going to be the catalyst for us to travel from false self through conscious mind, through subconscious mind to essential self. It is going to be some form, and we're going to get into the form, but they are calling it meditation, contemplation, and we're going to get into some details, and time alone with yourself. And they don't suggest this, but I'm suggesting this, like 7 minutes a day, at least, the bare minimum, of mamish dedicating 7 minutes a day of being with yourself, allowing the 3 elements of self, the false self, the conscious mind, and the subconscious mind, those 3 elements of self, to be able to rise within yourself and to be identified. Okay, Kim, we can go back to our beautiful faces. Okay. The Sufi tradition is very strong on meditation, but we have to, we're going to slowly go through what this meditation is all about, because I think I think we all have different impressions and different ideas about what meditation is. I want to clarify specifically what Sufi meditation focuses on. It's taking these 3 elements, the false self, the subconscious, the conscious, and the subconscious, allowing ourselves the time to rise and to be identified to these 3 energy zones within the self, to become real, to allow them to surface. And Chevra, I have to tell you, we rarely allow ourselves that time and that opportunity. And I think mostly because we're afraid. we're afraid what's going to surface. But the Sufi meditation, this work that they're talking about, is to spend meditative time with yourself. Number 2, part and parcel of this meditative process is to be in silence. To spend 7 to 10 minutes in silence. To be actually, now I'm talking like a little in the Jewish sense. I remember years ago, it was Yom Kippur, and I forget where we were exactly, but we were all together, and I had Michael Seltzer create a Sphera chart behind the Aron Kodesh, and I wanted a certain specific Keter part of the Sphera chart. I wanted the Keter part kind of emphasized and illuminated strongly, because in Jewish mysticism, Keter is, and he made, and Mike, you really came through with that chart, because in Jewish mysticism, silence is the Keter level. One would think silence is kind of like neutral. It's garnished. It's nothing. Silence is nothing. But in Jewish mysticism, silence is the Keter level. So to sit in silence is to invite. I'm now switching to the Jewish, is to invite Keter into your life. And yes, Keter can be all powerful. And sometimes we're afraid to go into Keter. The Sufi directive is to be encompassed by silence, to actually hear silence is the most important vehicle towards the essential self. Note that. And we're going to go a little bit into detail. Friends, by cultivating a concentrated time to visit our own states of being, our own states of consciousness, to create a time to make that visit, we start the process of coming to know ourselves, and thereby knowing the essential self that we reflect. If not for that, we remain in the dark. If not for that, we remain unpolished mirrors. So how much can an unpolished mirror actually reflect? Very hazy. very hazy, very unclear. It is through being alone, through a meditative process, and through being encompassed by a type of silence that we will start becoming. It's a process. It's not going to come after 1 7-minute session. This is not a cult. This is a direction of how to break through certain crusts that have accumulated within the self, that is preventing the essential self from becoming a true reflector. Okay, so friends, any comments, any epiphanies out there?
Marcia has been waiting patiently, and behind that I see Joyce.
Good morning. Good
And your
afternoon.
microphone is working so beautifully this day.
Good, I'm glad. The thing to be grateful for today. So, Rabbi, I've been thinking of this since the end of last week's class and all week. And I have something that has helped me process what you've been teaching us is an expansion of the graphic that you shared with us. And in that, it's like it's a mirror image. If you take the expressive, the essential self, and that horn that opens up and flip it over and put on the top the conscious and on the bottom the subconscious and inside the essential self. We are born with the essential self, or before we're born, we have the essential self. If it's our neshama, it's our soul. We are born with it. The conscious and the subconscious work on that. And that's what over time, I think, creates the false. So our conceptions, our preconceptions are...
Absolutely. Go right on. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so then the false self is in the middle.
It's called, Marcia, it's called life.
Yes, it is called life. And our conscious and our subconscious inform what we think we know about the world and ourselves, and what we don't even know is at work behind the scenes on ourselves and our perceptions. So then there's the false self in the middle, and then there's the horn again, and it opens up, and that conscious and that subconscious can also be used. Our awareness of that and what it is, what they are telling us in the meditation. We sit and we listen, and also in community, because Kim says you wouldn't give her private lessons, that she had to study in community. So we learn.
We're actually gonna get to community like immediately after. Okay. So but go ahead.
Then we learn more about what our conscious and our subconscious are telling us. And as we do that and we challenge it or we understand it, it opens back up to access to that essential self. And I'm pretty sure that imagery continues, open and closing for our entire lives. We go through that unaware state of what's working on our essential self, creating the false self, learning more, meditating more, getting in touch with the essential self, and then we get closed down again, and then we spend more time opening, and it's just like a pulsing little chart.
Yes, Marcia, you described it beautifully, and you opened up. I want to add something that if on the chart, because the chart goes from false self, which is very narrow, and starts expanding and expanding out and out. The process, unfortunately, on our graph, the opening, the expansiveness of essential self has an end to it. You know, it ends at the graph. But if you think like an enlightened person, like a mystic, that graph does not end at the end of the page. That opening it expands ad infinitum. So in other words, I want to add to what you said. We are opening up the possibility and the potentiality of existing and being and living in not that small little graph where essential self, you know, comes to an end. That essential self is capable of transporting us to realms ad infinitum, to an infinite level of being and of consciousness, which I just needed to add.
Okay, that's okay with me.
So here we have, there's a lineup. It's going to be Joyce, Sandra, Mike, Debbie, and Seema. And because we have a lineup, let's try to keep our observations.
Yeah, let's try to keep it because.
And rather than the conversation. Joyce.
Rabbi, hi.
Hi, Joyce.
Everybody. Could you, when I finish babbling, display that illustration again that you put up earlier, just a few minutes ago? You get their artwork. I can't imagine 7 minutes a day having any effect on me. I already know it doesn't. So I need one of those week-long retreats like the Buddhists do. And I know there are some Jewish ones also. So I'll do some looking. I think that's a good thing for me to look for.
I don't want, Joyce, I don't want, we're restricted with time. I don't want to get into a conversation, but those 3-day weekends or the week-long retreats that do this, you are going to end up after the 3 days of a great experience. But after the 3 days, the directive. The directive of those retreats is going to be start with 7 to 10 minutes a day of meditation and feeling silence and feeling yourselves and work your way up. That's the advice they are going to end up giving you.
Okay, we thank you. Sandra Fruitman. You're Sandra-less today.
Oh, she had to go to Toronto for a doctor's appointment. I can understand the silence. I'm not sure I understand how to meditate. What to meditate on? Is there a hint?
Oh, Sandra, I'm going to get into that, okay? Because I told you I'm not going to merely talk about meditation. I'm going to talk about the specific work that we ought to be focusing on when I am using the word contemplation or meditation. Okay, you're going to get it. You're at the end if we ever get to the end.
Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Might have to be next week, but I have that in mind, Sandra, and your important question will be responded to.
Okay, Mike, and then Seymour.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Rabbi.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. So, Rabbi, you mentioned to become real, to allow meditation, concentration, and time alone of the self allowed you to the realness to become up onto the surface. and taking that, bringing it to the surface, and going back to a couple of weeks ago, you were talking about thinking, speaking, and doing. So as you know, I've been meditating for some time, and just to condense this down for me, it becomes recently of mindfulness morphs into heartfulness, and heartfulness morphs into the bodily sensation of feltfulness. So that we go through all the philosophy, the thinking process, the meditation, the cognitive stuff that we do, and that kind of settles down into the heart, the compassion that's there. And then we can take the heart compassion and actually put it into the doing. So it's the thinking, the speaking from the heart, and then the actual actions, the doing. But we feel that shift. There's a shift of going from the mind into what it feels like to extend empathy into compassion and to do things, not necessarily for self or for other people, but just that expansion into the mirror of the self. And Ram Dass has a book out from years ago called Polishing the Mirror, which kind of reflected back to me when you mentioned.
Because because Ram Dass got it from this Sufi teaching. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's that balance between, all the religions, kind of go from one area of the globe to the other. And they say Jesus went to India, and India, the guys in India went to see Moses or Abraham, and it's just one big world. Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Seema, you are up, and welcome. Oops, you're muted. You are muted, my love. Yep, the little microphone button on the lower left-hand corner. There you go. Almost? Nope, that's not it. Hit it again. So what if I give you that? So if you click on the mute button, the lower left-hand corner, there's a little microphone. The glasses help. And if you click on the she's looking. Okay. How about we're going to move on, and there you go. Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you.
Simba, I like that a lot. Hopefully a little bit later on in my teaching, I want you to listen carefully, because that might be a beginning. I'm gonna top that. I'm gonna offer something that is gonna electrify that format, which I think is a good beginning. I'm just going to accelerate it. Okay, I'm going. Sure. Very true. Thank you, Seema. Thank you.
Shabri, thank you. Shabri, and then Nita will be the very last word before we go back to the Rebbe.
Okay. Yes. What? Thank you, Shabri. Thank you. Uh, we we are effectively not that, but if we allow, Shabri, what I think what the others were saying, if we allow the encrustment on the mirror to accumulate to such an extent that the mirror is hardly any longer a mirror, then in effect we are that. We become that. We become that. Not that there is no possibility for polishing, but like if someone would ask me, how can a mamash, an evil, the most evil person, how do you view the most evil person in view of what Shabri just said? There is a light, there is a soul, there is a brightness, there is a divinity in every person. Then I just say the most evil person that you could possibly think of has been encrusted to a point where 99.9% of the mirror has been blacked out. And yes, human beings are capable of that. We are capable of blacking out the light. So that's my response to you. The light is never 100% out, but yes, we have that capability, and we have been exposed to that type of human being who is so unpolished, who is so encrusted that you can hardly see a divinity in them. That is also true. Okay, next.
Okay, so the very last person who was going to be was Nita, if you are able to unmute. Are you able to unmute, Miss Nita? You see the little microphone? Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on.
Okay.
Donna will be first and Nita will be second when we take our next break.
Okay. So friends, I cannot emphasize more strongly that Jewish mysticism is in total agreement with this essential teaching within the Sufi tradition, and especially Kim, I'm going to go on.
Sorry.
Okay, we got Nita alive. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go.
I'll wait.
Nita, go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to tell you something, and I'd like your comment because you're so knowledgeable. I have been meditating twice a day for 15 minutes each day, rarely missing, since the year 1975.
Whoa.
And that meditation is TM, Transcendental Meditation from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And I feel it has been very heartwarming and comfortable and happy for me, but I'd like to hear what your comment is, if I may. Thank you.
Okay, Nita, we are gonna get down to it, but I am so amazed that and TM is the Maharishi. I think did millions upon millions of people a great mitzvah and a great favor of introducing this. Because it, as I was about to say, this has been their insistence, their absolute insistence on this mitzvah. That, right? Let's consider it a Sufi mitzvah. Has been a mitzvah in Jewish circles from the beginning of Judaism. The mystical masters from the beginning, and certainly after the period of the Ari and the Baal Shem Tov, and the one who most recently in the 18th century who has emphatically insisted on 7 to 10 minutes or X amount of time. I don't want to put a time limit on it. Who has out to the forest, be alone, be silent, be by yourself, you and spirit. You, whatever you want to call it, you and spirit, you and God, you and your neshama. And insisted that this is the beginning of any real spiritual work. For those who are meditating, renew your meditation and renew the energy behind it, hopefully from some pointers that I'm going to be focusing on. For those who are not, you are not going to get away with it. Your spiritual journey, you are not going to get away from not spending 7 to 10 minutes alone and have a successful journey. You will not, say the masters, say the ones that know. I can't tell you what kind of, the Sufi focus on meditation has brought out other things within the Jewish mystical tradition I came to a conclusion is that the masters talk about it and they blah blah blah, and I'm just seeing so clearly the master says you will not get away with a successful spiritual journey without this. And I took it to heart.
Okay, we'll take questions after the next round. I have Donna and Seema up for the next break.
Okay. So, Chavra, this is a little bit of an interjection. I'm going to continue with meditation, but I just want to introduce the second Sufi after meditation. Their second Sufi like pillar, the pillar upon which Sufism is founded is the idea wherever two or more are gathered. This is a quote. Wherever two or more are gathered in remembrance, that means there used to be a Peter, Paul, and Mary song called, it's a very famous song called the Wedding Song, or it's one of my, it's really a great song. You could YouTube it. But it used to be a popular wedding song. Whenever two or more are gathered, there is love. It's a gorgeous song.
Gathered in your.
Whenever two or more are gathered in your name, there is love. And I realized that the Peter, Paul, and Mary song comes from a Sufi teaching. Wherever two or more are gathered in remembrance, ... It means that what they are really saying is that they're in two or more, or there is some sort of collective resonance of hearts. And this is, again, really important to the Sufi tradition, one of the pillars, that collective resonance of hearts, when we do things together, uplifts one and all. There is rarely achieved to the same extent when one is alone, when one is doing collectively. In the Sufi tradition, fellowship and friendship are magnets to the essential spirit, are magnets towards the essential spirit. Not as much as they focus on a private meditative practice of being in silence with oneself, to, so to speak, counter that. They say, do that, but do not exclusively do things alone. And that to me resonated. What word comes up in your minds? Alone is good, but do not exclusively do things alone. The word to me automatically was minyan. Minyan. That Jewish mysticism also said, mamish, to do things alone in a forest, you yourself, me, myself, and I, and the divine spirit, mamish a gewalt. If you exclusively do that, not good. There is something that is so important about collective energy, that Sufism and Judaism insisted on collective spirituality experience. And I don't want to go on with that, although we can. I don't want to go on with that because I want to go back into the private zone. But as we speak about the private zone, I have to say this because have that in the back of your consciousness, that what the Sufis call the group, or the sisterhood / brotherhood, it so much assists in the attraction and the concentration and the transmission of such unbelievable subtle energies, and that the collective offers us perceptions, as we well know, when we're in a group, Chevra, right? When we're in a group, there is a collective energy that is much greater than the sum total of our bodies. And that creates a type of energy and a transformation that would be impossible otherwise. And they caution that to do things alone, exclusively alone, you know what? Cultivates self-importance. Even worse, cultivates self-righteousness. I'm the one that has attained. I, in my private little forest or my private little room, I right? It creates a kind of self-righteousness, and feeds into the ego that starts creating, giving strength to the false self. So keep that in mind. Being together with people of like minds to create an energy that would be impossible to create by yourself is a great pillar of spiritual work within the Sufi tradition, as it is in the Jewish tradition. Okay, friends. Now we're going to go back into the private. By the way, just in the sense of Reb Nachman and private meditations. Reb Nachman in the 18th century advised his disciples, which are existent by the tens of thousands today are existent in Israel, who advises students, his disciples, to go out to I'm seeing Bruce's frame here on the Zoom. Everyone look at Bruce's frame. That's a picture of a forest, correct? An isolated forest. That's where Reb Nachman suggested to each of his Hasidim to go into the forests of the Ukraine. He lived in the Ukraine, and to bring a chair with them, and to have like their own and to create in a forest like that with mamish nobody around, to create their own little sanctuary, their forest sanctuary, where they were able to sit in silence and speak to self, to speak to their conscious self, their subconscious self, their superconscious self, and to connect to the essential self. And he says you must do that X amount of time before davening, before prayer. And you know what happens today in Israel? That happens in the forests surrounding Jerusalem, surrounding where every Breslover Chassid lives. And somebody, unbelievably, somebody discovered this tradition and he was a photographer, and started taking professional photographs of the chairs and the different kind of seating arrangements that these Hasidim were establishing in the forests, in the deserts of surrounding Israel, and it is now being his photographs are being there's a special viewing of his photographs, simply around 100 chairs, 100 meditative chairs in the background of a wilderness, background of a forest, and it's in the Israeli Museum now, showcased meditative chairs. Let's go on. Sufism places a great amount of spiritual focus on what it calls, and for those that are taking notes, those that want to remember, certain Sufi terminologies that will remind you of the layers and layers of spiritual meanings. It's something they call gathering the fragmented self. The gathering of the fragmented self. Say that a few times to yourself, and you'll get it. Gathering the fragmented self, and it has to do with what we spoke a little bit about before. Hi, friends. We'll start from the beginning. There is from birth. There is mamish from birth. This I, capital I. this I feeling that follows us around from birth. Think about it for a minute. Go through, regardless of your age, go through your entire history in 3 seconds flat, and you will realize the enormity of that statement. There is this I that has followed you around from birth. Is anyone thinking right now of yourself as a 5-year-old?
Rabbi, EYE or I, me?
Capital I.
EYE is a good part too.
No, I'm not going there.
Okay.
Capital I. There's an I in all of us that has followed us around from birth into adolescence, into teenage, into first marriage, into second marriage, into fifth marriage, into 5 divorces, into deaths, into tragedies, into all through. There is that I that has followed you from birth. And we have accumulated stuff around that I. We have accumulated experiences. We have accumulated stuff. And for some of us, some of that stuff has created an I feeling of loneliness, an I feeling of alienation. And for others, that I has created a feeling of communion and union. And for some, that feeling of I has resulted in a feeling of deprecation. And for others, it has resulted in a feeling of pride and self-worth. And for the I that has followed us through life has resulted in what we are and who we are now, and what we think of ourselves and who we are. For some of us, that I has resulted in a sense of being imprisoned now as we speak. And for some of us, that I that has followed has resulted in a feeling of freedom, and that we have hit the lottery. The I that has followed us has resulted in all of the faces that we see on this Zoom, and how we feel about ourselves. Isn't that amazing? And the Sufi wisdom has to tell us that spiritual attainment. What does spiritual attainment mean in the Sufi tradition? Spiritual attainment is basically a fundamental transformation of our I from a separate, limited, contracted small identity into a whole and integrated one. That's what spiritual attainment means. It's when we are able to view, perceive, recognize our I, not as separate and limited, but expanded and rich. That is what Sufi tradition calls spiritual attainment. When the I in us is healthy, nourished, transformed, and free and expanded. Wow. What a beautiful definition of spiritual attainment. In Jewish terms, when basically spiritual attainment means when the neshama, when our neshamas are in, where our neshamas are in a state of harmony, when our souls are in a state of balance, and we are able to fly free, when we are unconstricted. It's a movement. I'm gonna go maybe a little bit to past classes, but most of us have been in the past classes. It's is a movement from separation, from the feeling of feeling separated and fragmented to a feeling of wholeness and union within our inner core. And to put it in terms of other classes, it's the attainment of the place that where we go from the realm and perception of duality to the place of non-duality. From the place where I feel conflicted and constricted to a place where I feel whole and in harmony and in union. That is spiritual attainment. In Hebrew, that's devekut. Spiritual attainment, when I feel the harmony and union of my neshama vis-a-vis the world around me, when I feel that harmony working, that unity working, that echadness working, that is devekut land. That is devekut land. That is union. So there is in Sufi perception, the gathering of the fragmented self, the I, that represents all of our experience, all of our life's experience, and where we landed right now, where we have landed. If we have landed in a fragmented place, we ought to be doing the work of gathering, and we will be getting to what that work, defining that work of gathering is. But the realization that we might have accumulated a fragmented through our life experience, we might have accumulated this sense of fragmentation, this sense of duality. And duality means we are divided, we are separate. We are separate from the world, but more importantly, we are separate from ourselves. We have inner fragmentation. We are separated inside ourselves. Spiritual attainment means when we are able to glue that together and to come to peace, to come to a certain union, a certain dveikut. So Sufism teaches that, and this meditation. Sufism advocates that we first realize how tremendously fragmented and how chaotic the mamash, not ourselves only, but the nature of life and ourselves really are. The nature of life is very fragmented. It's very chaotic and crazy. Think of your think of your day and how many places and how many things and how many concerns and how many things we are compelled into doing. I want us to have a little rachmanis on ourselves. Think of how torn, how many pieces, we're torn into. This one needs this, but like every part of our day is like we are being schlepped this way, this need, that day, and if even if we have that under a little bit control, the mere nature of what Jewish tradition calls the olam hagashmi, the physical world, even the physical world under which we have no escape. But look at the physical world. Look at our pleasure zones. We're also being schlepped here and there. You wake up and you're hungry, your stomach 4, 5, 6 hours of relief, and you know what happens again? Nachamul, you're hungry again. Like you eat, you are satisfied, you say, and you know what happens? Like not more than 5, 6 hours later, no, again, you're hungry. Right? The whole cycle of nature, our physical selves is going from satisfaction to non-satisfaction, to yearning and starving and desiring, and then satisfying again, and that satisfaction wanes and then goes. Right, our whole life, the whole malchut is going like everything. Everything comes and goes. Everything in the physical life comes and then goes, comes and then goes. It's an endless cycle. And there is a need for integration in our lives, from our physical selves to our spiritual selves. There is a need for like some sort of integration, some sort of, when I'm not on the roller coaster, when I'm balanced and even, when I'm in my Tiferet zone. We have to start enjoying our Tiferet zones when I'm not starving and I'm not I just want to be. I want to enjoy. I want the experience of just being. So that takes a lot of work in Sufi tradition. It takes a lot of work to concentrate, to give attention to those times when we're not on the roller coaster. And it's going to be those times that we focus on that is going to bring us great perspective, great enlightenment. Okay, I see we don't have too much time left. We're going to Kim. Let's have a few. If anyone's online.
Donna has her hand raised, and I have the Hebrew name for Marilyn's brother. Go ahead.
Okay.
Seema was here, but she had to leave, so we'll start with her if she has a question next week. Okay, so Donna and then Micheline with 6 minutes.
Yeah. I'll do meditation first, because that is going to go to witness. The accumulation of the meditative process, when to bring the practitioner of that meditation into a zone, into that place of essential self, that one is able to attain what we call in Jewish tradition, to a place of shiviti. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. I have reached a place of enlightenment, or a place of perception, where all of life, all of external life, I am in the zone, and I am experiencing and feeling all of life around me within the most expansive type of perception and eyes that I am possibly capable of. So the Sufi tradition is that through accumulated meditative process, one comes to a point of enlightenment where all of life becomes one big, huge meditation. And it is through that perception, that place of perception, that one becomes actually witness to the true essence of life, not the exterior, not the shallow, but to the true essence of life. One is actually beginning to become the witness of what true life really is.
Micheline, and then Mishabeach, and then go ahead, Micheline.
Rabbi, you basically just said what I was going to say in a little bit different way, and it's the comment that you made, that there's a need for integration in our lives, physical and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And mindfulness, it's when you sit down to your meal, and before you eat your meal, you think about the seed that grew this plant that you're about to eat, and the wind and the rain and the earth and the sun, and then you appreciate the cells in your body taking in the food and using it properly, and the appreciation of all things in your life, and the central focus, not multitasking, but the central focus on each detail of what you're doing throughout your day, the appreciation, and non-judgment. And that's exactly where you're at.
Micheline, you are mamish like a true mystic. If you said that, what you said is really the a true mystical way of viewing things, and the deeper we get, Chevra, let's end. Thank you, Micheline, for that. That the deeper we get into the contrast of our lives, that is on one level very fragmented and very chaotic, and on the other level, the other parallel, that we are seeking our souls, our real core, the essence of our true selves, are really looking for integration. Our souls the soul is intolerant of the fragmentation of our lives, or the fragmentation of the malchut level of reality. And that part of the work is to recognize, on one hand, my life is full of chaos and fragmentation, but on the other hand, I am mamish seeking, like my life depends on it, I am seeking some semblance of unity and harmony and balance and beauty and tiferet in my life. So these are the two parallel universes that are working, and the work, the avodah consists of my ability to integrate these two parallel universes and create some sort of union, to find some sort of union, some sort of echadness between the fragmentation and the harmony that my soul so desires, so yearns for. Okay, Kim, what's the Hebrew name? Let's all collective.
Yisrael Aaron, the brother of our dear Marilyn.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's Yisrael.
Aaron.
Yisrael Aharon.
Aaron, no ha.
Every Aaron is Aharon.
Okay.
Whether they know it or not, right? Whether they know it. Okay, so let's do a collective Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yavarech et Yisrael Aharon Ba'avur shemishpachto Nodvim tzedaka ba'avuro Yizchar zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yamala Rachmim Olav May the divine source of life grant him refuat hanefesh, a healing of the body, or a healing of the soul, and a healing of the body. Hashtabak alav izman kariv v'nomar amen. In our collective prayers, let us all say to Yisrael Aaron, amen. Let it be so. Let it be so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Refuah Shalema, Refuah Shalema.
Refuah Shalema. And